Hi, this video is about the prediction of activity 6 of Unit PC, more on liquids and characteristic properties. From the page 62 until 66. First question is, what observational evidence would you need to convince someone of the idea that particles in liquid are attached to each other? Um, Evidence that from the water particles that show us too that the liquid particles are next to each other, and when it is proved from a glass, all of the particles come next to each other, and the particles attract each other and do not disperse like the gas. Other question is, what evidence do you have to suggest there are attractive forces between particles in the liquids? There are very strong attractive forces between particles in the liquid that we see in the water particles, that when it is poured from the glass. And what do the behaviors of the liquid droplets indicate about the relative strengths of the attractive forces between particles? The liquid, when it is in a specific volume, the particles are strong enough to hold and not slide over each other. Other question is, what happens when the magnet is held next to the stream of water? Nothing happens for the stream of water magnet. What happens when the electrical charged wand is held next to the stream of water? When the electrical charge band is next to the steam water, the positive charge of the water attract the negative charge of the electrical wand, and because of that the water is bent. And what does that other question is, what does that suggest about the kind of force that exists between particles of water, magnetic or electrostatic? What is your evidence? I think is the water steam is a relationship with the electrostatic, not magnetic. That because of the attractive between the negative and positive charges of the steam water and the electrical wand. Other question is, predict what you will observe when a charge band is brought near a stream of hexane. Nothing happen. What happens when the charged band is held next to the stream of the hexane? How does that compare with what happens with the stream of water? With the hexane not happened, and but what the stream of water, the charges and become of attractive because of the between the positive charges of water and the negative of wand, the steam water is bent. Make a claim about the attractive forces between the particles in water, ethanol and hexane. Um, with examinate that we did the attractive forces between the particles. The water is very strong, that is liquid, and between the ethanol, that is gas, is very weak, and between hexane is increasing when the number of the carbon atoms and is increases. It causes the increases in the mass and surface area of the hexane, and because of that the attractive forces between the particles of hexane is increases. Other question is, imagine that a drop of food dye is added to a beaker containing water. You then observe the food coloring several times over a 10 minutes period at its sites undisturbed. Using a nanoscopic model or particles predict what do you think you will observe over time. Yes, the food color, when we add the food coloring to the specific amount of water, after a while all of the water becomes the color of the food coloring. And the other question is, describe what you see happening to the water and food dye in the beaker over time. Includes any differences between the different temperature water samples. I think it's spread out the food colored all over the containers in three temperatures. But I think that because of the differences temperature that is decreases or increases, they take times to spread out all of the containers. Other question is, what macroscopic evidence do you have that there must be space separating particles of liquids? That this evidence is when we put the food coloring to a specific container of water. We see after a while the all of the containers becomes the color of the food colors, and because of the spread of this color between the empty space small between the particles of water. Other question is, what macroscopic evidence do you have that particles of liquids must be moving at all times? The evidence because of this food coloring that we add to the water, because of the moving of the particles of water, the containers becomes the color of the food coloring. And the last question is, provide an explanation to account for any differences in behavior of the dyes at different temperature. In different temperature, moving of the particles becomes in the heating is becomes quickly, and the decreasing becomes slowly, and because of that take times to the food coloring spread of the all of the containers.